Hey all, welcome to my video of what I do as a strategic finance manager in tech. First, I'm going to give a little bit of background as to why I'm actually making this video. When I was interviewing for strategic finance roles, I wasn't able to find content on YouTube that actually gets into the specifics of what we do in strategic finance at tech companies. I saw a lot of videos on product management, product design, engineering, but really not much going through what you actually get to do on a day-to-day for strategic finance. So I really just wanted to make this video to shed a little bit more light onto it, and hopefully it's helpful for some people. So I'll get right into it. From a responsibility standpoint, we do four main things, or the way I break it down is four main areas. So in strategic finance, we set the annual and quarterly plan. We monitor business health and performance. We calculate and evaluate the ROI on investments, and we help close the books. I'll go through each one of these in the next few minutes. But first, a little about me. I come to this as a strategic finance manager at DoorDash. Previously, I worked at a few tech companies. I worked at McAfee. I was an investor at TPG and an investment banker at Credit Suisse, and worked with a few early seed stage companies. So first, the first responsibility is setting the annual and quarterly plan. And really, the three components are first establishing the baseline of the historical P&L, the historical non-P&L metrics, and existing ROI. This will become a little bit easier through an example. Establish the targets, so understand where the company is going to go. So that's revenue growth, profitability constraints, and then understanding what are the benchmarks for peers. And then finally, once we have the baseline and the targets, we're going to work with the team, so the actual operators of the business, to develop a set of actions that's going to allow us to execute on our targets. So how do we actually do this? First, we're going to set the baseline. And so what we have here is just an example quarterly P&L. We're going to lay out revenue. We're going to lay out gross profit, SG&A, contribution profit, cash burn, and really just set the baseline for the business. We're then going to use that to actually establish the projection for the next year. So as you can see here, we're projecting a 20% revenue increase year on year. And we can see from historicals that that's going to be a reversion from the trend that we saw in 2020. So that's a re-acceleration in revenue growth. And really, you can look across all the different P&L items and be able to first understand, because we have the historical background here, whether each of our assumptions or projections is potentially conservative or potentially a little bit more aggressive, because we have first defined the baseline. After we've defined the baseline, we're going to spend some time actually digging into the components of each of the lines in the P&L. So as an example, on the revenue side, depending on what business you're in, you're going to want to break that down into the drivers of revenue. It's going to be really hard for operators to understand 20% revenue growth if they can't contextualize that between the levers that they actually have control over. And so getting a little bit more granular in your schedules actually allows you to flex the different levers and allows the team to understand what they need to do and what they need to change in order to achieve the plan. So here we have broken out revenue by customers, units per customer, unit price to get by customer revenue. And depending on your business, you're going to want to do this, something similar depending on your revenue algorithm. On the sales and marketing side, we're going to do something similar to build up to the costs. So we're going to look at, for example, leads, cost per lead to get all-in lead cost. We're going to look at number of headcount, cost per head to get an estimate of how much we're going to spend on sales. We're going to do something similar for marketing. And so really for each of these P&L components, we want to break it down into the component parts. And that's going to allow us to develop a plan that's a little bit more actionable and allow us to understand what we need to do in order to hit the targets. From a peer perspective, this is data that you can get from public sources like press releases. You can look at private sources like PitchBook and Crunchbase. But really what you want to look for is revenue growth, really just any financial targets or financial information that you're able to get from companies that look like yours, to really understand whether the plan that you're setting is either within the bands or outside of the bands of what other companies either in your space or at a similar stage of maturity are achieving or have achieved. Once you've set the plan, and that's going to be a very iterative process that you're likely going to go through either weeks or months of setting the plan. The next stage is just monitoring the business health and performance. The first way to do that is going to be looking at dashboards. And so depending on where your data lives and what data you're looking at, that could mean, setting up a dashboard in something like Mode. It could mean looking at HubSpot on the marketing side. It could mean querying Snowflake if you're looking at transaction data that lives in a Snowflake warehouse. You may be putting this in Google Sheets. So really, you're going to, after the plan is set, you're going to want to start to look at the different business metrics and understand how the company is performing. And one great way to do that and to understand how the performance is either deviating towards or away from your plan is to look at a set of key performance indicators. And so here, what we've done is we've taken a set of indicators that are the most important for the business to hit over the course of either the year or the quarter. We've put them into weeks to make it easier to track and more timely to track. And really just keeping it simple with, okay, what did we plan for? What was the actual and what's the deviation? And this is going to help us on a week-to-week basis to understand how we're performing, things we need to do to take action depending on performance, and just be more aware of what's happening in the business versus what we thought was going to happen. Finally, for more sophisticated companies, what you might do after you've set the plan is maintain a trended forecast. And so what this means is as you get more or new information about what's happening over the year or the quarter, you'd maintain a live forecast and continue to retrend either for the quarter or the year expectations as new information comes in. So that's a typical ask of strategic finance managers, which is, okay, how are we trending for the quarter or how are we trending for the year? And if you just are using the model that you built for the plan, that might not have the most relevant information in it. And so this is a great way to keep your models updated and reflective of everything you know about the business. The third thing that we do as a strategic finance manager is evaluate the ROI on investments. And so there could be many different types of ROI analysis. What I've shown here is an example if you're looking at the ROI on leads. You might break that down by channel. So you'd look at total leads by channel. You'd look at the percentage of leads that converted into customers. You'd look at the costs of each channel to get a cost per customer acquired. And then you might compare that to the LTV of each channel to understand which are your best performing channels and therefore which are the channels that you should continue to invest in and which are your worst performing channels, and then use this to recommend pushing spend towards your higher performing channels. Another example of this is let's say somebody wants to run a new customer promotion. You might just run a quick analysis that says, okay, what's the upfront cost going to be of running the promotion? How many new customers are we going to acquire? What's the LTV or long-term value of each of these acquired customers to get an acquired LTV? And then be able to say, okay, for every dollar or for every $1,000 that we spend in this promotion type, here's the return on a multiple of LTV to CAC. You could also do this on a payback period or different ways. But really the core thing to focus on here is just getting a sense for the return that you're getting from the dollars that you're outlaying, whether they're acquiring new customers, whether it's hiring new sales heads, whether it's bringing an unprofitable customer on board that you're looking to get profitable in the future. Your job is going to be to calculate and justify or not justify making these different investments. What you'll notice is that business partners are always going to want to make investments and spend more than you've told them to. They might be recommending that we spend more dollars on generating leads. They might be recommending promotions. They might be recommending more headcount. It's really your job to use the ROI analysis to really just shepherd the resources of the business to where they're going to have the biggest impact. And so it's going to be your job to use the analysis that we were showing on the prior slide to to either approve or not approve the different investment requests that come in, and make sure that we're funding the business in a way that's going to allow us to maximize our opportunity and get us closest to the goal that we agreed to in the annual plan. Finally, the last thing that we do as strategic finance managers is we close the books. And so depending on the setup of your accounting team, you might be working with them to help them understand why different accounts moved either month over month or quarter over quarter. You're going to be the one with the most business context as the strategic finance partner. And so you'll be in a very good position to explain key trends that are happening in the historical P&L. We're gonna want to work with our accounting partners to understand different adjustments that impact profitability or cash burn, and also get ahead of any future adjustments. As an example, if we know somebody's leaving that has a severance package or has an adjustment related to their stock options, we're just going to want to get ahead of that and work with our accounting partners to make sure that they're aware of this upcoming change in the business and that they're tracking to make an adjustment in the P&L or an accounting adjustment for it. So that's it. That's key responsibilities of a strategic finance manager at a tech company. I hope you all found this helpful. If you enjoyed this type of content, please add a like. But even more importantly, add a comment if there's other areas that you'd like to know better. I'd love to cover a few different areas. A couple that I have here are hiring, a day in the life, and then looking at some example strategic finance problems that you may work on if you're either in strategic finance or choose to make the switch. So thanks again, and happy profitable growth.